Everyone, welcome to another video, and in this video we will be talking about purchasing your first car. Over the years I've met a lot of people who have purchased their first cars, and I've realized what mistakes they make and what mistakes I made and what good things they have done and what was the right thing I did when I was purchasing the car. Right, I have a Toyota RAV4 right now. I love that car. So I've created this amazing guide, wrote this 12 pages guide, which I'm going to leave the link in description. I've created that guide, you can download it, but in this video I'm going to cover all of those topics because I'm gonna forget. I've written down all of the topics. So the first is when and why do you need a car? Second is buying a new car versus old car. Should you buy SUV versus sedan? Where to buy the car from? What manufacturers I prefer and the reasoning behind it. Financing your car. Should you buy a car or lease a car? Title fees, registration, insurance, all of this hidden costs. And then, do you need a car or do you want a car? I think that's a very important factor to consider as well. And in this video, I'm going to leave a link of another guide somewhere in the video. You'll have to watch the whole video to get that link. But let's just get started and talk about it. The US is huge. New York, LA, Chicago, Austin, maybe Dallas, downtown. These places you can commute, right? You can commute without needing a car. College campuses as well, they have a lot of transportation, which makes it easy to commute easily. But if you move anywhere else, right, if you're moving for internship or work, you would need a car. So my first point, right, when and why do you need a car? Usually students buy their first car when they're going for an internship and they need it for their daily commute. Or they're going for their full-time job, and they need a car no matter what because they have to commute to work, which is far away and they can't afford Ubers. But I always recommend during internship, if you can do a cost-benefit analysis and see if buying a car is cheaper or if going through Uber is cheaper. Also, not everybody knows how to drive a car, so that's also some factor to consider. But I would recommend learn how to drive before coming here, and once you come here, you can just know how to handle. All of the cars here are automatic gear, so you don't have to fiddle around with gears, which makes it super easy. But you need to know how the rule work because there's right-hand driving and left-hand driving. In the US, we sit on the left and drive on the right. In India, it's vice versa. So you need to know that, right? How to drive better. One thing I want to mention before we go further in this video is if you're in first year, second year, if you're looking forward to buying your car soon, please get a credit card because your credit history is going to be super important when you're financing your car. Without a credit history, you won't be able to finance. Even if you will be able to finance, you will have to pay a huge amount of interest on that car. So just get a credit card. I'm going to leave a link in description of all my credit card recommendations and the video I've shared, how to get your first credit card. Second point is buying a new car versus old car. I bought a used car, right? This was pre-COVID, 2019, and I bought my first car. During that time, the cost of used car was substantially lower than the cost of new cars. Post-COVID, the cost of new car is almost similar to buying an old car. I preferred the old car. I'll tell you my reasoning. I bought a Toyota RAV4 2019 version. It was $10,000 cheaper than getting a new car from the dealership. Buying used car is good because the depreciated value is already done, so I don't have to worry about all of that and I can just drive off. I bought my car for $23,000, whereas the new version of the same car was $33,000. So think about it, see whether you can go to a website called Kelley Blue Book and check whether a new car is cheaper or the old one is cheaper. I'm gonna give you some recommendations as well where you can buy a car. Pros and cons of buying a new car versus old car, right? New car, you don't have to worry about maintenance because it's pretty new. Some people drive like crazy, so that's a problem with the old car. Old car doesn't have the depreciating thing, but new car has that. As soon as you drive it off the dealership, it will depreciate. Plus, if you're new to the US and if you're driving for the first time and this is your first car, I would recommend buying an old car which has driven like 25-30,000 miles, maybe even 40,000 miles, because you might hit something or you might scratch the paint of your car and it will make it a little bit easier on the mind when it's an old car rather than the new one. My third point is buying an SUV versus sedan. A lot of people consider an SUV when they are living in cities or states like Colorado, Boston, or if they're living in Illinois, anywhere in Midwest where it snows a lot, they consider buying a SUV, let's say a Subaru. There's different brands, right? So a 4x4 basically. But if you go to these cities, you will see people driving sedans with no problem at all. Now, the reason why I preferred SUV and I like SUV, I got a compact SUV, is because I could load up a lot of things in it and like transfer it from place to place. Me and my wife were living separate at the time when I bought the car, so I had to commute a lot from Tucson to Phoenix, Phoenix to Tucson, and carry a lot of things in the car, which made it super easy when I had my SUV. Let's say you don't want to buy an SUV, you love sedans, you can still rent a U-Haul and transfer all of those things without any problem. So don't worry about getting an SUV versus a sedan even if you're living in places where there's a lot of snow, because they usually clear out the roads, so your sedan will drive easily. Fourth point, where to buy the car from. Now, there's a lot of options. You have the dealerships, of course. That's the first option. I don't like them personally because they haggle a lot, and even after haggling a lot, they would like reduce the price of the car very minute amount. So it is not worth the effort of going through that process. The second option is buying through Carvana. I do not recommend Carvana at all. I've had a friend who bought the car from them and the car started having problems. Even there, if there's return policy, it's not that easy to buy the car and then you send it back. But CarMax, CarMax is also a website. CarMax is much better than Carvana, 100 times better. And Carvana is almost going to go bankrupt pretty soon. Now, another option is going to dealer's website and checking out. All the dealers in the US have new vehicles and used vehicles as well. So you can check out all of the portfolios and all of the cars they have available on their website, on your local dealer's shop, and then go and drive. I like that personally because I can feel the car, how it drives. I can check it out. I can see if I fit really well, how it feels inside, how it feels to drive, how it turns, all of those things I can see. And then when I go to the dealer, I can see, what financing options I have. Plus, seeing a car in person is amazing, and it cannot compare seeing a car online. It doesn't compare at all. Then there's rental companies. There's a lot of rental companies like Hertz, Enterprise, National, which sells their cars as well. Rental car companies have hundreds and thousands of vehicles. As soon as they hit their 30,000 marks or 20,000 marks or 10,000 marks, they tend to sell it because then it becomes a nightmare for them to get it serviced. So you can check out all of these rental cars websites. I'm going to leave some in the description below as well. Now, the fifth point is what manufacturers are prefer. This is an Asian thing, right? If you'll see a Chinese person, Indian person, they would have Hondas and Toyotas, or they would have Teslas. A lot of rich people have Teslas as well, but majority of Asian people have Hondas and Toyotas because Hondas and Toyotas hold their value really well. For example, I'll give you an example. I bought my car for 23,000 when it had 11,000 miles. The same car, even with more mileage, is selling for 24,000 something. The 2019 model as of right now. Honda's luxury brand is Acura, Toyota's luxury brand is Lexus, and you will see a lot of Asians and Indians buying Toyotas and Hondas because the service is cheap. The car drives really well for up to 250, 300,000 without any problem, and the servicing is not that expensive even if you have to get it done. So that's my preferred thing, right? I have driven a lot of cars. I've driven Mitsubishis, I've driven Toyotas, Hondas, Nissan, Hyundai, Audi, Mercedes. I've driven all of these cars. I've driven BMW as well. I loved all these cars. I've even driven Chevy. I've driven Dodge Challenger as well. I've loved all of these cars, and I drive them when I'm renting them out, and I enjoy these cars. But when I come home, I want a reliable car, and that's why I have a Toyota. Sixth point is how to finance your car. There are two options, right? You can pay off the car by yourself. You can get a loan, like a soft loan from your friends and family. You can pay off the car. You can save $5,000-$6,000 and buy a second-hand car. If you have to finance a car, you would get a higher interest rate because you don't have a credit history. That's why I recommend everyone, as soon as they come to the US, you should get a credit card so that you develop that credit history, and you will be able to get a loan with lower interest rate, lower percent interest rate, right? Now, financing your car is a little tricky as well. If you go to a dealer and tell them that I want to finance my car, the dealers make money off the financing deal. So they'll charge you a higher interest rate. I did not know this when I was buying my car, and I had a decent credit score, not so good. I went to the dealer. He gave me a loan through Capital One. My loan interest rate was 5.6%. But when I refinanced that loan, my new interest rate was 2.2%. So there's that option as well. Let's say you get a higher interest rate right now because you don't have a credit history. Do not worry about it. You can refinance that loan and get a lower interest rate and basically save a lot of money. One more thing I would recommend is open a credit union account. Every university, doesn't matter if it's Stevens or San Jose State or Harvard or Stanford, all of them have credit unions. Open an account with them because credit unions have lower interest loans for students and for the community. I have taken my loan from one AZ credit union, and even my home loan is through them, and it's much cheaper as compared to going with like a private lender or somebody like Chase or Capital One. And remember, if you get a high interest rate right now and you need a car, don't worry about it. You can always refinance the loan and figure it out. Like, refinancing is very common option in the US. They do it for car loans, they do it for personal loans, they do it even for home loans. So not a problem at all. Seventh point is, should you buy or lease a car? I got this question a lot, and people had comments as well, right? People said if you're getting a very expensive car, lease it, because there are pros and cons to lease and buying, right? In buying the car, you're creating equity. For example, in my car right now, I have $6,000 of remaining loan, so I still have $17,000 of equity if I sell it for $23,000, right? So I'm going to be able to recoup my cost, and the only thing I paid was the $6,000. Now, in terms of lease, you don't have that. You don't have any equity. Plus, lease also have a limit on the amount of miles you can drive on the car. Usually it's 12,000 miles per year. You might think that's a lot of miles and I don't have to worry about it. But if you're like me and you love to take road trips and you commute a lot, you will be putting on miles on the car really quickly. And when you're leasing a car and going over those mile limit, every mile will cost you a lot of money, and you'll have to pay that at the end of your lease term. Now, 8th point is title, registration fees, insurance, all of these hidden fees. If you're buying a $5,000 car, it's just not limited to that, okay? There's going to be a title fees when you're buying that car. Then there's going to be a registration fee every year you're owning that car. It depends state to state. For example, in Arizona, I pay like $300 some for my registration fee every year. You have to maintain that. They give you a tag for that your registration is updated. Then there is service cost. I have to take my car for maintenance. Every time I go for maintenance, it's like $100, $200. With a new car, you have like 6-7 services free. Every 5,000 miles, you have a service free until 25,000 or 24,000 miles, depending on brand to brand. But after that, the service might cost more or less depending on if you go to the authorized dealer. I always go to the Toyota service center. That's why I pay more than I should be paying, but I do pay that. But if I go to Walmart just for an oil change, it's usually way lesser. There's car wash as well, right? If you have to wash your car, it's going to cost you $10, $20. Plus insurance is expensive. Me and my wife is a new driver. So altogether, our insurance costs $138 per month right now. So add that to the payment you're already making. For my car, I make a payment of $562 every month. My loan is very short term. That's why I make higher payments. $562 plus $138 for insurance, plus any of the service costs which it's including. So for owning that cost, plus gas also every month, petrol will cost you $50-$60 too. So owning that car is going to run me anywhere between, let's say, $600-$700. If you're buying a very used car under $10,000, it's going to be much cheaper than that. But that is still there, right? Like owning a car is expensive, and there's a lot of hidden costs which you have to factor in. So please do that. My last point is it a need or a want? need versus want, right? I've seen a lot of students buying Camaros and buying Audis and buying Teslas, and then they struggle with the payments. If you have an education loan, please focus on paying that back first, just because it's a lot of money and you're accruing interest on that. And plus, your first car, you might not get a very good deal on that car as compared to, let's say, the second car or third car you're getting, or once you have a credit history, you can refinance the loan, right? So try buying a cheap car. That's what I recommend. If you're making six figures, 150, 200, 300K, buy whatever car you want, right? I don't really care. You can buy, I have friends of friends who have bought Maseratis because they're making 400K, 500K a year. You can totally do that. My recommendation, consider asking yourself the question, do I need this or do I want this, right? Now, since you guys stayed until the end of the video, I want to share, I'm going to leave two links, okay? You could easily make $100 by just getting, I'm referring you to something. You can make $100, so you can check that out. I'm going to leave that link in the description. If you watched this whole video and if you like it, thank you so much guys for watching. I hope you like this one. Please comment any of the questions you have regarding car purchase and I'll be able to help you out. Download the guide I have in the description as well. And until then, I'll see you next one. Take care everyone.